Mr. Speaker.
I call Jenny Salesa for her maiden statement.
Kia ora tātou katoa. Good afternoon. Tala whalava, malo lelei, whakawhetai ki he eiki, pia kua tuku e whakamalo me kololia ki he otua o langi, I hene ngahi tau poaki. He koe sihova pe taha, ne lawai ai whenga koe ni. Tuku mua ke huwhanga he ngahi tala whakatapu, ka ata mua koe whangamari koe ni ke whai atu haki I lea, me ke whiwhina tua mo maulala koe ni, haulua ki lea ki whalea lea o Aotearoa Nusila. My congratulations to the Honourable Speaker for his election and to the election of the Deputy Speaker, Chester Burrows, as well as Assistant Speakers Lindsay Tish and my good Labour colleague, Trevor Mallard. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I would also like to acknowledge my predecessor, Ross Robertson from Manukau East, who served our communities for 27 long years and was himself an Assistant Speaker of the House. On Monday, here in this House, I swore an oath of loyalty and service to Parliament and our nation. It is such an honour and a privilege to enter this House with its history and traditions. This is the House of Government, and with that honour comes enormous responsibility, and it is a responsibility that I feel as I stand here for the first time today. I was honoured to take my parliamentary oath, but it is not the only oath that I feel bound by. Since I was selected to be the Labour candidate at Manukau East, I have also sworn another oath, an oath to the people of Manukau East and to other hard-working people in New Zealand, the kind of people who do a lot and only ask for a little, people who really only ask for a just and equitable society. The oath I have taken is to serve, to listen and to work for the people of Manukau East. The reason I have come to this House is to represent them, thousands who elected me to come here, to bring their voices into our nation's conversations, to remind our nation of Manukau East and to make sure that our government works for them as well as others throughout New Zealand, much like them. The oath I made is to stand with and to stand for everyday working New Zealand, the young and the old, the people who are the backbone of our nation. Mr. Speaker, we should remind ourselves that many of our nation's voices have not always carried into Parliament. We would do well to listen more carefully to the many voices that have not always been heard clearly in this House. The voices of our poor, of our young, of our seniors, of our new migrants, of women, of Māori and Pacific New Zealanders. Parliament is the people's house, and we would do well to remember all of the people when we sit here. Let us remember most of all those we do not hear, those who do not have the money or the power to gain the ears of their representatives. I come to this House today, Mr. Speaker, as a proud New Zealander, as an Aucklander and South Aucklander. I come as an immigrant to this country from the Pacific and as a Tongan. The fact that a girl from Lotofoa Ha'apai and Nukolofa Tonga can be elected to New Zealand's Parliament says a great deal. It says a great deal about the strength of our democracy. I was born and raised in our Pacific Island neighbour, just north of us in the beautiful Kingdom of Tonga. My family moved to Aotearoa, New Zealand, so I could complete my education when I was 16 years old. My upbringing was always one that celebrated service. I grew up with a father who, for so many years, was the only pharmacist in Tonga. If he didn't go to work, people couldn't get their medicines. I saw what a difference he made in people's lives and how much everyone gains when we honour each other with our hard work. For my father, who is 84 years old and who is here today, a life spent in service to others was the true hallmark of A life spent in service to others was a true hallmark of a Christian life. For my mother, who is also here, as she went to work in a factory in South Auckland, then as a part-time cleaner in the evenings, her service to our family was from a mother's love, her commitment to her church and our community. Not only did my family, many of whom are here today, make my aspirations possible, they also gave me the values of service and hard work that made them achievable for me. My way of serving has been through my work as a public servant, in policy and in funding, and through my voluntary work in the community. But behind this are the values and work ethics of my parents. Respect your elders and respect others. Love and serve your family. Help those in need and serve your community. Work for a just and equitable society. Be humble and act with humility. Do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. These are Tongan values. These are New Zealand values. They are Labour values, and these are my values. The challenge has been how to put these values into action. Labour values, when put into bold, smart policies, have been completely transformational and have made New Zealand the wonderful country that it is. I joined the Labour Party because it is the party that shares my values and ideals. However, I stand here today for the Labour Party because not only is it a party of values, it is the party of ideas, of bold and wise change, of transformations that have lifted the living standards of all New Zealanders and which have made our country prosperous but also more humane and a better place to live. Labour delivered social security to New Zealand in 1938. Labour created the 40-hour, 5-day working week with 8 annual holidays. Labour recognised the Treaty of Waitangi and allowed for claims to be retrospective. Labour made New Zealand nuclear-free. Labour codified universal free healthcare. Labour promoted Samoan independence and global decolonisation. Labour stopped the Springbok Tour in 1973. Labour passed the New Zealand Bill of Rights. Labour created the KiwiSaver, the Super Fund and the Supreme Court. And Labour recognised Te Reo Māori as an official language of our country, Aotearoa. These are the kinds of ideas that make Aotearoa a better place for everyone. I look forward to being a part of the Labour government that resumes such far-sighted and transformative government in the very near future. These past few months have reminded me that in our great country there is still so much work to be done. In large parts of New Zealand, including where I come from, child poverty is not a policy abstraction, but a lived issue, one that too many families face or have known. Hundreds of thousands of New Zealand children now live in poverty. The fifth Labour government showed that with smart government and with good policy, the numbers in poverty can be reduced. But in the last few years, the number of children in poverty has grown. Let's not forget what poverty really means in this country. If you are a child living in the most deprived parts of New Zealand, you are 25 more likely to go to hospital with rheumatic fever. If you are poor, you're 5 times more likely to die of sudden unexpected death in infancy. These children, remember, are New Zealand children. Child poverty affects health, and child poverty also affects education. Research confirms what some teachers and principals have told me, that in some schools in my electorate, up to half of their students move from school to school each year because their families are moved from house to house. This is such a problem in so many of our schools, and it has a name: churn. This is real insecurity, not even knowing where you will live, and this is insecurity of tenure is not just a housing problem, but it is a problem for families, and it is a problem for us in this house, and it is a problem for our nation. It is a problem of education, health and opportunity. Almost every day I see families coming into my electorate office in Otara asking for help, especially with housing. Many of these families do not have a place to live in. Many are homeless. Some live in garages. Some live in cars. Some live temporarily with relatives until they are asked to move on. Most of these families are on the urgent priority list for housing, Priority A. In 2007, there were 133 families on the Priority A waiting list. In June this year, 3,188 such families was on the same list, waiting for a house. That is just the tip of the iceberg. Treasury estimates that tens of thousands of New Zealanders are living in severe housing deprivation. In 1935, the first Labour government realised that in order to ensure both quality and quantity of housing, it was not enough to sit back and wait. Government had to lead. Showing that leadership, the first Labour government built thousands of homes. Those Labour state houses were little slices of Kiwi paradise. Within them, Labour's state houses were built to last. But New Zealand is no longer at the forefront of social housing and home ownership. We have gone from a nation that made bold and wise investments in the lives of families to a nation which has one of the lowest rates of social housing provision in the developed world at only 5%. Politicians on both sides of this House grew up in social housing, but things have changed since then. Doing it hard in New Zealand used to mean living in a 3-bedroom brick and tile house on a quarter acre. Now, doing it hard in New Zealand means living with your 6 children in a car, or waiting for nearly a year on our most urgent housing list, or living in a caravan or a garage. I came from Tonga to New Zealand because of New Zealand's schools and universities. I have no doubts, Mr. Speaker, that a quality education is still the best way forward in New Zealand. But even education is shaped by child poverty. We have a high-quality educational system, but it is also highly unequal. The challenge for us as a nation is to ensure that all students get the same chance in schools, and we have not been meeting that challenge. We now live in a country where the most important predictor of your future educational performance is your socio-economic status. Some progress has been made, but not enough. We have not addressed the root of the problem. We kid ourselves if we think that all problems we see in education can be solved within schools, because so many of these problems do not originate in schools. When kids are sick, cold and hungry, they're not going to be as ready to learn. Seriously addressing child poverty, ensuring the hundreds of thousands of kids living in poverty get out of it, is the giant leap we need to make in education. It is one thing to give a speech about it and declare child poverty a priority, but if we do not have a hard target, if we do not have genuine priorities that we publicly measure, these will all be just empty words. We will talk the talk about child poverty, and the numbers will continue to grow as they have. People can't eat a speech. People can't live on a promise, a consent or a plan. And a white paper doesn't fill a student's empty stomach. These past few months have reminded me again of just how we all are tied to each other. The road to Parliament, Mr. Speaker, is not one that can be travelled alone, nor should it be. Today, I thank with all my heart my family, friends, my supporters, colleagues who have made the journey for me possible. For me, these are the people who live Labour values, and their commitment to serve have been inspirational. Their words have been full. Thank you very much. To my husband, Tuelusulu Daimon Salesa, to my daughters Mahalia and Esme, my parents Samiu and Loketi Latu, my in-laws Yvonne and Jeremia Salesa, my whole campaign team and support team, especially Matila Latu Ali, Leela, Michael, Ailupetea Sina, Dawn, Felicity, Lotu, Seini, Moyaki, Akesa, Sefita, Pane, Aleki, Kite, Siale, Leilani, Fia, Mele, Lele, the Gordons, Vries and whanana, you have my deepest gratitude. To my labour whānau, especially Vui, Sua, Carol, Carmel, Herman, Nick, Jerome and Judith, thank you. Malo aupito tua o whātu. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. O kuiai ha ki I whono. O ku
Ginny, just go
seni.
Mr. Speaker.
I call Adrian Rurawhai for his maiden statement.
Kororia hareruia ki